Welcome back, friends. Last guy here. Time for episode 2 of part 2 of the Greatest Attorney. I think Jinx will just continue the numbers, probably. I don't know what number we're at on that, though. I went back, re-listened to the cat guy, the author, so I got his voice again, as far as I can tell. The server didn't even bother, because I know that voice was all over the place, so I'll try that one again. 5% chance the agent's the killer, 0% chance the author's the killer, so there's got to be another witness somewhere. Here we go. Witnesses, please state your names and occupations for the court. Chief Inspector Satoru Osanaga, Imperial Police Bureau. I'm in disguise, obviously, so I can go undetected. And I am, well, the next big thing in books. An author renowned throughout the capital, in fact, yes. Soon to be sold out, the satirical I Am a Cat, the sensational success by Soseki Natsume. Oh my god, he's got some pride in him now. And then there's this effing guy. Oh my goodness. Struggling student from the provinces, please. You needn't be in awe of me. I needn't. It's only natural that you'd feel nervous in my presence, but all of you, please relax. Call me Soseki, even. Yes. What on earth is Soseki-san doing here? Tread carefully, Sasato. That author fellow knows you from your time in London, doesn't he? If he exposes you for who you really are, this will be over before it's begun. Yes, of course, I know. I presume Soseki-san won't have forgotten about me. I could certainly never forget him. Although he does seem to have changed somewhat in the 6 months or so that it's been since I last saw him. And as for Inspector Hosanaga, that amazing outfit is hard to believe. Do I have something on my face? Well, your glasses for one, although they don't seem to be helping you see. Thank goodness he hasn't recognized me either. I suppose it's this disguise, isn't it, Sasato? I'd love it if he said that. I suppose it's this disguise, isn't it? I thought that appearing here in the clothes I was wearing at the time would make for a more faithful testimony. It is my guiding principle to carry out all testimonies flawlessly. Well, I can appreciate why an Imperial Police Bureau detective might have been present. But what business did a writer such as yourself have being at the scene, Soseki-san? Well, you see, I had been asked that day to give a lecture. On the morning of the incident, in the Imperial Yume University's Grand Lecture Hall, no less. At Yume University? After the lecture, I had a very pleasant conversation with a researcher from the Medical Science Department. The professor over there, in fact. With Professor Mikitoba? Yes, that's right. It was arranged by one of the newspapers. They wanted some story or other about 2 former students who'd studied in Great Britain. Yes, of course. Being a renowned author, the press never leave me alone. They secretly spy, snapshots, scribble stories, and scupper my privacy. As you can see, the conversation was written up in this newspaper here. Read it at your leisure, my provincial struggling student friend. I have plenty of copies. Thank you very much. You practically threw that paper at me. The Soseki Natsume article has been entered into the court record. Newspaper containing an article about the discussion between my father and Soseki-san. The debate became quite spirited. And look. Okay, let's see here. Look at this first. Feathers. Footprint. Lots of footprints. Lots of footprints. Things there. Dress. She had many masks. Freaking A. Ah! Ugh. Okay. Just can't stop posing. Cat. A Neko. Alright. Meow. Alright, well, the hell is it? I was just looking at that. Letters. I assume this is actual writing here. They didn't just put blah 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 blah. Anyway, following my interview with the professor, The lady in question appeared and made a very unexpected announcement. I should like to go with everyone to see your country's coast. Those were her words. As I explained before, Miss Brett was never taken into custody. She continued to work in my laboratory, under strict surveillance, of course. At which utterance, the university immediately contacted the government to seek guidance. And the response was, permit Miss Brett to go as long as the detective accompanies her. The detective I am at liberty to divulge was me, Chief Inspector Satoru Hosanaga. Thereby the entire party departed cordially for the seaside, it seems. It was extremely challenging to clear all of the members of the public from the vicinity of the beach. But fortunately I am at peak physical fitness at the moment, so I was able to carry out my duty flawlessly. Still dying. Oh my, Inspector, you... Well, you do have something on your face now. How unsightly. I do apologize. Does that mean that you went to the beach too, Father? No. Fortunately, I had work to finish off. But unfortunately, of course, it meant that as my assistant, Ray was invited to take my place. Of course, being a renowned author, I didn't like to decline the invitation. But if only I had! I'd never have seen that awful sight! Relentlessly racked by remorse and regret. What is this guy about in the back, right? Very well, I must now ask you to present your formal testimony to the court. You will give an account of all that you witnessed on your impromptu excursion to the coast. Is that a real turtle? Of course, Your Excellency. Relentlessly racked by remorse and regret I am. Witness testimony. The witnessed scene. On the day of the incident, I was ordered on a special surveillance assignment in this disguise. I just managed to catch that crab when I suddenly heard a caterwaul from behind me. I ran into the beach hut at once. There, where I found a pair in question. Yes, that young girl was astride the Englishwoman, dagger in hand, as she stabbed wildly. I saw blood on the blade. It proved to me that she'd stabbed the victim multiple times. We know that's wrong. Indeed, it does appear from this testimony that both witnesses have here present saw it. The very moment of this heinous crime. Did not! What? Now, if you will recall, I promised evidence as well. What phrase did I use again? Ah, yes, that was it. Damning evidence. What have you there, Counsel? A so-called fountain pen, is it? Correct, Your Excellency. I found it at the scene whilst examining the body. There, I should get more raspiness in this voice. It appears that in her dying moments, with her final ounce of strength, the victim clutched a piece of evidence that would positively identify her killer. What? Your Excellency, if you would cast your eyes over the photographic print of the crime scene once more. Goodness me. Yes, the victim is clearly grasping something quite deliberately there in her hand. Or she was writing. That's right, the fountain pen. And if you would kindly examine the pen, Your Excellency. The owner's initials have been engraved into the ebonite barrel. I am Ray Mimbami. The initials of the defendant. No! Oh my god, she does it too! Oh my god! This fountain pen will be admitted immediately as critical evidence. The fountain pen has been entered as critical. RM. So have I admitted anything? Decisive testimony and damning evidence? There's a bright blue sky outside the courthouse today. Perfect weather to ascribe guilt, I feel. Does she shake up too? I don't understand. The prosecution you 9 months ago. Had none of this man's poise. Counsel for the defense, you may begin your cross-examination now. Naruhodo-san. Naruhodo. Shakes herself up too, but differently, okay. That means... Oh, yes. Me! Is there another Naruhodo in my courtroom? Actually, there isn't even a single Naruhodo in your courtroom. Cousin Ryotaro, please pull yourself together. Alright, I've seen this countless times as a judicial assistant. Find inconsistencies in the witnesses' testimonies to prove that they're lying somehow. That's all there is to it. That's how a real lawyer would handle a cross-examination. Let's see what I can do. Cross-examination. The witness scene. Here we go, it's time to do some pressing. Press.
Hold it!
That's her voice. In that jaunty disguise. Correct. Wait. No, I mean, it wasn't the first time I've worn a swimsuit for a dip in the ocean. It's tried and tested. Do what must be done to keep the Englishwoman under surveillance. Those were my orders that day. And this tried and tested outfit was the answer? Being able to blend flawlessly into a crowd is an important part of a detective's job. I submerged myself in the salty water, leaving only Mr. Turtle floating inconspicuously on the surface. Mr. Turtle loves the water. But there's no need for you to blend into the background on this assignment, really, was there? If that made you late arriving on the scene, I think perhaps you had your priorities wrong. Perhaps I shouldn't pursue this line of questioning any further at the moment.
Hold it!
You're describing the victim's scream, presumably, Soseki-san? In more literary terms, you might say it was a scream that could have pierced the heavens. Grah! Or the like. Of course, that's just a metaphor. Renowned authors are wont to describing things. So, Soseki-san wasn't at all like this in England. Anyway, I spun around at the noise and the beach hut immediately fell under my gaze. Yes, the beach hut. The area is popular with government ministers. Many have seaside retreats there for rest and recuperation. Locals are prohibited from entering the area, so it's always quite quiet. The beach hut is a simple structure erected as a place for people to change or take refuge from the sun. Crab. Although the Englishwoman commandeered the hut for herself, which meant that I was forced to change into my swimsuit on the sand. I imagine that was rather embarrassing for you. Well, anyway, I tossed the crab aside and headed for the beach hut at a run. Or in more literary terms, I decrabbed and beetled off hut-wise. I'm mixing it with the goblin a little bit. I gotta work on that.
Hold it!
Wait, by pair, you don't mean to say? But how could that be? No, you misunderstand. Obviously, I mean the victim and the defendant, Ray Mbambi's son. Oh, it would have been helpful if you could have just said that from the outset. If you jump to conclusions, you have to expect to fall flat on your face sometimes. Dear me, pinning your hopes on such an outside chance. Foolish. Very foolish. It really was an outside chance. I just wish I'd realized that before I said something silly. So, Inspector, why don't you tell the court how exactly you found the aforementioned pair in the hut? Well, it was a sorry sight. A really grisly scene. I parted the noreen curtain, hanging in the doorway, and stepped inside only to see the defendant leaning menacingly over the lifeless body of the victim, sprawled on the sand. My glasses very nearly cracked at the ominous sight that met my eyes. How thoroughly appalling! He doesn't appear to be lying here. Well, Saseki-san, can you confirm what Inspector Hosonaga is saying, I wonder? You'd like a letter A man's opinion? Yeah, it's more that. That's more it. Yes. There we go.
Hold it!
Stabbed wildly? You actually saw her do it? Oh, indeed. The terrible inspector! The terrible inspector! The bloody torment! The author's torment! Eek! Every sight and every sound is still carved in my melancholy memory. That was my impression, at least, as a future literary sensation. Counsel, what on earth was that shrill, effeminate scream? Oh, no, what are you insinuating? I'm as manly as a Japanese man as you. I wonder if I might interject here, Suseki-san. Something you said is troubling me. That was my impression. Were your words just now, I believe? So do you mean to say you're not confident that you really did see what you've described? Oh, he's doing that crap again. No, yes, I know what I saw. My ears didn't deceive me when I heard that scream, hence my eyes didn't deceive me either. I could describe everything I saw vividly. I could publish it all in tomorrow's newspaper serial. It sounds as though the next installment of I Am a Cat may take a macabre turn. I think this is a fool's errand. The more we press your author friend on what he saw, the more entrenched he's going to become. Oh dear, how awkward. But she was stabbed multiple times. How can you be so sure? Very simple. The blood on the blade. The blood? When I entered the hut, I saw the defendant holding the blade raised in the air. Yes, that's right. I saw it too. Oh. And I noted that there was blood on the blade already at that point. In other words, the victim had already been stabbed at least once by the time I arrived at the scene. That we know. Yes, that's right. I saw it too. And the victim was already holding the defendant's fountain pen in her hand, too. All of which means I can be sure the victim did not die instantly. Yes, right. I saw it too. Oh my god. Maybe here in London was too much for him. He sounds like he's forgotten how to speak Japanese. The logic of your argument is sound, at least. Well, as I said, it is my guiding principle to carry out all testimonies flawlessly. Perhaps it should have been your guiding principle to protect the victim flawlessly. Ooh, that's just my personal opinion, of course. A burned! Counsel, you refrain from mocking the witness. Oh no, I just have so many thoughts swirling around in my head. It's all I can do to stand here, wide-eyed and mute. Goodness, my dear, you really must try to calm down. But how am I supposed to find an inconsistency in what these two gentlemen are saying? I don't see why either of them would have any reason to lie. What you must remember, I think, is that the witnesses may inadvertently lie at times. For various reasons. A misunderstanding, a mistaken observation, a delusion, even. Ah, a delusion. What's important is that we determine the truth, and there's only one sure way to do that. Yes, with evidence, of course. Spoken like a true judicial assistant. During witness testimony, you can use R to pick a piece of evidence to present for consideration. You need to listen carefully to each statement and compare what's said to the details in the court record. You find some conflicting information. That may be the inconsistency you're looking for. Yes, it's all about the inconsistencies. Once you've identified a witness's statement that appears to conflict with a piece of evidence, present the evidence to the witness with X, and the way ahead will present itself to you, I'm sure. Yes, alright then. I'll consider the details of all the evidence in the court record against each statement to find inconsistency. I hope I'm up to the task. Don't forget that you can have the witness repeat their statements as many times as you like. Everyone has to start at the beginning, remember. Those wide eyes are quite forgivable. And besides, there's no one else to defend the poor girl. You're right. I need to listen to the testimony again from the start. Okay, I go through all this again. I can't examine the pen, huh? Okay. I can examine this. Alright, there's no consistency there. Single deep stab wound from behind. Thing is, he does say multiple and then he says singular when you press him. Do it anyway.
Objection!
Boo! She did the point! With that accusatory cry that was just welled up from deep within inside me, I think I finally understand. Every time Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo-san have stood here at this bench, the stakes have been very, very high indeed. What's the meaning of that menacing pose, Counsel? I'd like the witness to clarify something for me. Who? What? Where? When? How? Not you, Soseki-san. This query is directed at Inspector Hosonaga. At me. In your statement just now, you said that the victim was stabbed multiple times. Yes, that's right. As I said when I entered the hut. The defendant was already standing over the victim, bloody knife in hand, like a murderous demon. And yet, that cannot be. What? Get to the point, please, Counsel. Look! In the post-mortem report, it clearly states that the victim was stabbed one time only. Oh! In other words, Inspector Osanaga's testimony is clearly flawed. Oh! And Soseki-san. Me? You claim to have seen Membami-san in the throes of stabbing the victim. Yes, I did. Wildly. But both you and the inspector confirmed the same point. That there was already blood on the knife that you saw the defendant holding. Yes, and... It's quite simple. We know the murder weapon was used to stab the victim only once. Therefore, there is no way there could have been blood on the knife if the single stabbing hadn't occurred already. If that single stabbing hadn't already occurred. Ah, true. Then what exactly is your contention, Counsel? Are you ever going to tell us? Yes, Your Excellency. There's only one logical conclusion. What Soseki in fact saw was not the moment that the defendant stabbed the victim at all. At the moment that the defendant, in fact, withdrew the blade from the victim's body. That can't be! Excellent work, Susato. You exploded at them with the objection, and then proceeded to pull them apart systematically.
Objection!
Well, this takes me back. Yes, I seem to remember your cousin staged a scene much like this in that trial 9 months ago. A half-witted child, a half-baked objection, attempting to steal the show. You're right, there were certain similarities. Except that so-called half-witted child managed to outwit the prosecution, who was only half a head of hair. Slander! My head is quite adequately dressed. In any case, all this talk of stabbing, withdrawing, and multiple wounds, it makes not for a jot of difference. What? Why not? Engage your brain, young man. When the accused first plunged the deadly weapon into the victim, that was the fatal blow. And it was at that moment, just as she had withdrawn the blade ready for her next strike, that the witnesses saw. The knife was already tainted with blood, because the accused had already stabbed the victim. Ah! All you have successfully shown with your little display is that the mustached author is prone to moments of extravagance. Huh? How's that hat not come off? I am in agreement with the prosecution. If the defendant was seen wielding the blade at all, that is sufficient grounds for actions to be viewed with suspicion. But if she was withdrawing the blade, then we are back where we started. Sorry? Consider this, young yokel boy. If the student girl is innocent as you claim, then why would she have pulled the blade from the victim, with the demon's cold-blooded composure, too? The prosecution demands an explanation, and it had better be good. Why did Ray pull the knife? Ah, yes, going for the jugular. What does father mean by that? Let the court hear your reason then, counsel. The truth is, I don't really know. I have to come up with a plausible reason here, or we don't have a case. The reason why the defendant pulled the knife blade out of the victim's body was surely so she could save her life. According to the post-mortem report, the victim's death was not instant. That's correct. It's thought she would have remained conscious for a short while after sustaining the injury. Indeed, giving her the time to take hold of this piece of evidence that clearly indicates a killer. The point is, being a medical research assistant, Membami-san was compelled to act when faced with the wounded victim. Instinctively, she pulled the blade out in an attempt to save Miss Brett's life. Did you hear that, Your Excellency? It would seem this is the best we can expect from this young yokel. Indeed. Is it just me, or does it suddenly feel much colder in here? Your Excellency, if I may. Speak, witness. I would like another opportunity to testify. In retrospect, to the slipshod assertion just put forward by the yokel defense counsel, I mean. Slipshod? An excellent idea, Inspector. A young yokel hopeful has a modicum of knowledge when it comes to the law, it seems. But in matters of medicine, he appears to possess not one iota of common sense. Very well, Inspector. I will permit your request. You will testify again before the court on the subject of defense counsel's assertion. Yes, sir. I will do it so flawlessly. So the reason is you don't take a knife out because whatever, it's already holding the blood in. Taking a knife out will let the blood go everywhere, and that's worse. So obviously Sasato doesn't know that, but it was the only reasoning we could give from what I could tell. Forensic Medicine Primer. Pulling a blade from a wound without thinking could cause heavy bleeding. That's basic knowledge that any medical research assistant with an ounce of sense ought to know. In other words, there's no good reason why the defendant would have tried to pull the knife from the victim. Let's not forget that the young student did have a motive for killing the victim. The man the victim murdered 9 months ago, Dr. Wilson, was the defendant's highly respected mentor. Gotta press all of that. Is what you just said true, Inspector? Could pulling a knife from a wound really cause the wound to bleed heavily? Yes. Think of the weapon itself as a stopper in the wound that prevents excessive blood loss. Exactly. Until a doctor is ready to provide proper treatment, that stopper shouldn't be removed. Oh, I see. Ha! This is why yokels should stay on the farm. Even a quack from some obscure mountain village would have such basic knowledge. Anyone who's ever given someone a little poke with a knife and pulled it out again knows it. Okay? Oh, well, I've never stabbed anyone, you see? Or pulled a blade out of a wound, so... Of course you haven't. I didn't bring you up to behave like a bandit. Father, is it true, what they're telling me? Yes, it's basic remedial knowledge from medics. Ray would have been well aware of it. If she were to claim ignorance of such fundamentals, that would prove fatal in many ways. But then, why would Ray have done it? Would she have pulled out that knife in full knowledge that it would be fatal for Miss Brett? I don't know. Ray never once mentioned anything about the knife to me. It seems almost impossible to believe, but... Did my friend actually have... Sasato! Yes? Pull yourself together. We mustn't lose sight of why we're here. Ah! Counsel, it's time for your cross-examination. Oh, yes, Your Excellency. However, I must warn you that if your cross-examination fails to identify any issue with the established facts, I will be moving to an adjudication immediately afterwards. Understood. Believing in your clients and fighting for their cause until the bitter end. I knew it would be hard, but I had no idea it would be this hard. Cross-examination. Forensic medicine primer. Okay, we press.
Hold it!
You say doing it without thinking could be a problem. Does that mean that if you used due care and attention, it would be alright? I wouldn't have thought this needed spelling out, really, but... The blade is like a stopper in the wound. Remove it, and a serious hemorrhage will occur. In other words, a medic would need to be present before any attempt was made to withdraw the blade. Doing it without thinking would be madness. You just can't do it. Oh, well, thank you for such a thorough explanation. You see, Counsel, when you act without thinking, the result is a bloodbath. Back to the witness testimony, please.
Hold it!
In that case, there's an obvious explanation here. Which is... Clearly, the defendant, Ray Monbami, does not possess an ounce of sense. What do you think about that, Professor Mikatoba? I'm not sure that you should be labeling your best friend as lacking in common sense. Well, I thought it would be better than labeling her as a murderer. I don't know, young people, today. If that's friendship, I don't understand it. Careful, Counsel. A lack of common sense can be a very dangerous thing. Oh dear, that recoiled on me rather badly. That's life, I'm afraid. A lesson everyone must learn. Hopefully you can see now that this is really basic medical knowledge. Being involved in medical research, Membami-san would certainly have been aware of it.
Hold it!
But the defendant had suddenly encountered somebody she knew lying on the ground, bleeding to death. The sight could have shocked her delicate sensibilities, causing her to remove the blade inadvertently. I really don't think inadvertent actions can explain this. The woman is a medical research assistant. I can't imagine she would behave so irrationally. Oh, but irrational behavior is a woman's prerogative, isn't it? Wow! Wow, Sasato! Oh dear, you have a lot to learn about women. Only a small-minded man could have such bigoted views. Oh dear! Perhaps I'm letting my male persona take a hold a little too much. Well, have I managed to convey the basics now? I should cover the medical side of the argument. Oh my god, I should have seen that joke coming.
Hold it!
Whatever the motive, it just isn't in Membani-san's nature to do something so awful. But she had both motive and opportunity. That's very hard to argue against. But you don't know the defendant.
Objection!
And you, counsel, do not appear to know the law. Yes, evidence is the only way to convince the court of this argument. Not feeling. With this fledgling to defend her, I would almost say I pity the accused. So do I. Inspector, you'll reiterate your point about the defendant's motive, please. Ah, yes. Miss Brett was in many ways the sworn enemy of Membami-san. The man the victim murdered 9 months ago, Dr. Wilson, was the defendant's highly respected mentor.
Hold it!
Well, yes, that's true. Dr. Wilson recognized Membami-san's talent and offered her the position of assistant despite her being a woman. She was extremely grateful to him. Yes, the Englishman appears to have been a very broad-minded individual. Dr. Wilson had no time for outdated traditions. He met with opposition, of course, but he believed firmly in Membami-san's abilities. I believe the defendant was in the man's debt, which only serves to prove my point. This is hopeless. I can't find a single crack in this testimony anywhere. If Ray knew that withdrawing the knife from the wound would threaten Miss Brett's life further, I just can't think of any other explanation why she did it. Sasato, it's at times like these when it's especially important to remember the fundamentals. The fundamentals? Evidence is what counts in this courtroom, isn't it? Of course. But I've been through the court record dozens of times already. I think perhaps you're forgetting something, though. You needn't take the evidence at face value. You can and must examine it in further great detail. 2. Ah, I realize this is your first time playing the role of lawyer in the courtroom. So if you need reminding of the rudiments, you need only ask. I'll do my very best to help. You examine the evidence in the courtroom. It's an idea, certainly. What should I do? I know what to do. Come to think of it, Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo are always turning evidence over and over in their hands. Yes, I need to examine things in greater detail with A. Ah, by the look in your eyes, I see it's coming back to you. Go through the court record again and have a thorough look at everything. You may just find a clue. Yes, I'll do it straight away. I can now examine the pen, okay. If we take off the pen's lid, now let's unscrew the barrel, shall we? This must be the little reservoir that holds the pen. Yes, you fill it by drawing ink from bottle up through the nib. Is something wrong, Father? Just that there doesn't actually appear to be any ink in there, that's all. Oh yes, you're right. It's pretty much empty. Well, it could be on the verge of running out, I suppose. Very small amount of liquid still inside. There's some sort of emblem here, look. But it isn't a Yuma University one. Must belong to some other organization, I suppose. A business of some kind. But that would seem to imply that the pen doesn't in fact belong to Ray. Yeah! The RM initials are very clearly engraved here. And the fact that Miss Brett was clinging to this pen in her dying moments is very clearly a message too. Identify a killer, you mean? I don't think that can be any doubt that this is a key piece of evidence in this case. Oh, hey! I can move this around now. Let's look at this front. Rausch's returnees return to all. Rausch's England returnees tell all. This is the interview with you and Saseki-san, is it, father? It looks as though it was quite an exchange. Yes, he became a little over-animated when he was talking about his time in England. The photographer managed to capture the moment his hand karate chopped me on the neck. I do hope you weren't hurt. I was. Okay, let's see on the back. Here's the newspaper from Saseki-san. Seems to be an important article on the back page as well. Exclusive deadly poison stolen from Yume Medical Research Laboratory. From Yume's medical research? Father, isn't that your lab? What the? Let me see. The poison's been stolen? It's this morning's paper that Saseki-san gave us. Are you saying you didn't know? As embarrassing as that is for the head of the laboratory, I didn't. I've not heard any such thing. Where on earth could the reporter have gleaned this information? Come to think of it, there was no article mentioning this story in our paper this morning, was there? It's a highly toxic poison we've been working on in the strictest confidence. I'd put Ray in charge of the project. Oh no! Ray! She was managing it? If that's written here, it's true. If what's written here is true, it means that she tried to hide the theft from me. And moreover, the details were leaked somehow. I don't believe it. We need to read this article very carefully. Article about poison that was stolen from the laboratory. Even my father, who was responsible for your lab, didn't know nothing of the incident. Alright, let's read that. Exclusive deadly poison stolen from Yume Medical Research Laboratory. Following a lecture at Yume by Saseki Natsume on 11th of August, it's come to light that a very disturbing incident took place. A deadly poison being secretly developed in the university's forensic science laboratory was stolen. Deadly in tiny quantities. Even the smallest amount entering the body, either via the mouth or via a wound from a poison-laced blade, would prove fatal in minutes. Current methods cannot detect a newly developed chemical. The university would have to be consulted. Why is the poison being developed? Onset of symptoms occurs in minutes, starting with impaired breathing and ending with acute contraction of the pupils prior to death. Such symptoms would be suggestive of this toxin. It's apparently an entirely new synthesis of alkaloids and rumored to have been commissioned by the military. How does that help me in any way? There's gotta be something here I'm missing, but you can't examine it for things, so I don't know. A lot of footsteps here, though. Lots of footsteps. Shoot, I don't know. Oh, but we'll stop there for now. I have fun. Hope if I'm watching. That's what's up, isn't it? Having fun. Thanks for coming by, and see you next time, where hopefully we figure this out. Ugh.